Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Hemp Panel at the Grow New York Summit. My name is Larry Smart. I'm a professor in the horticulture section in the School of Integrated Plant Science and Associate Director of Cornell Agritech in Geneva. I am the only panelist today in the hemp session, and I have been asked to very quickly review the market opportunities for hemp and CBD, and then to talk about our transition in regulations, both for growers and for processors and CBD retailers. So if you could put up the first slide, please. We want to be clear about what we're talking about. Hemp is different from adult use cannabis, even though they are the same species, Cannabis sativa. We distinguish hemp from cannabis based on the THC concentration. So that's really the only critical difference we need to keep in mind. Hemp has less than 0.3% THC. Cannabis has greater than 0.3% THC. The way I like to describe it is as a matter of plant breeding. Hemp has been bred for the production of grain, fiber, and more recently cannabidiol or CBD, while cannabis has been bred for high production of THC. You can move on to the next slide. Here we see in this slide an estimate of the 2017 market in the US for hemp products, totaling about 820 million. There has not been a good public estimate of the hemp market more recently than that. But I'm going to focus in on CBD in the next slide. I put this up because, again, based on the breeding of hemp, there are a number of different end product applications for food or for feed, for building materials such as that wall insulation. The hemp seed oil incorporates very well into personal care products, soaps and lotions and lip balms. And hemp has historically been used for the production of rope and textiles and fabrics. And Patagonia makes a very nice line of hemp-based products. But it's really the cannabidiol or CBD market that we want to focus in on today. In 2017, you'll see there this estimate from Vote Hemp and the Hemp Business Journal put that market at $190 million. Next slide. So what is cannabidiol, CBD? Well, it is a proven human medicine approved by the FDA in its pure form, which is now marketed by GW Pharma as the pharmaceutical Epidiolex to treat childhood epilepsy. And you see there that since it was approved by the FDA and has been recently descheduled, so it is no longer a scheduled controlled substance, GW Pharma brought in $296 million last year in its launch year, and already in 2020, through Q2 of 2020, GW Pharma has brought in $217 million. So you see that sale of Epidiolex already exceeds the 2017 market for CBD. But the other form that CBD is sold in is as a broad spectrum product, meaning a full extract from hemp, again packaged into different forms, whether it's a tincture or a gel or a lotion. I put up some products from Charlotte's Web, who reported, again, gross revenues through Q2 of 2020 of $43 million. Next slide. So Nielsen has estimated that the CBD market right now is somewhere between 2.2 and $2.5 billion, up from that $190 million in 2017. Brightfield Group has been very optimistic in their projection of the market. You see their predicted market of over $23 billion potentially by 2023. I think a lot of that depends on whether we incorporate CBD more broadly into food and beverage products. And we have an indication of that here in New York with a New Jersey CBD company working together with Pepsi to bottle a CBD seltzer that will be distributed here in New York. Nielsen has also identified another big opportunity, and that's in pet care products. And we have a veterinarian at the Cornell Vet School who has demonstrated that CBD is very effective at treating arthritis in dogs. Next slide. So based on those market expansions and projected further market expansions, the production of hemp has tripled every year up until this year. So you see, starting with 10,000 acres in 2016, with full legalization in the 2018 Farm Bill, we got up to, I'll estimate, somewhere around 250,000 acres planted in 2019, even though over 500,000 acres were licensed across 34 states. We now have legal hemp production in at least 46 states, but there was significant overproduction in 2019, perhaps 3 to 4-fold more hemp produced than what the market would bear. So I believe we've had significant retraction of acreage. My estimate, this is strictly a guess, is that we may see around 80 to 100,000 acres planted, somewhere around 35% of what we had in 2019. Next slide. The situation for hemp growers has gotten more complicated. Initially based on the 2014 Farm Bill, each state proposed a pilot program, and New York State proposed and passed theirs in late 2015 and initiated it in 2016. But now with the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill, there are federal regulations, and each state has the option of proposing their own state program to meet those federal guidelines, or tribal programs can be approved. If those entities choose not to manage their own programs, then they revert to USDA regulation. A key factor in that USDA regulation is a uniform standard of 0.3% total THC, which is different in New York from our program managed by New York State Ag and Markets, which had a standard of only Delta 9 THC. Another key difference is the sampling and testing of hemp to meet those regulatory guidelines. Currently, under New York State regulation, that is done by employees of New York State Ag and Markets, and the testing is done in the state lab. Under the USDA guidelines, that testing would be conducted by commercial sampling agents who would then bring samples to commercial labs. Now, initially, New York State decided not to submit their own program to USDA, and based on that, we would have reverted to USDA management, but through language incorporated into a continuing resolution bill at the federal level, the deadline for transition to USDA regulation was moved to September of 21. So New York State has opted to continue management of the hemp growing program through sometime in 2021, potentially up until the deadline in September. But stay tuned. New York State may decide to put together its own program and submit it to USDA, or we may revert back to USDA regulation. We at Cornell in the Hemp Research and Extension Program will stay on top of this. We have very good partnership both with Ag and Markets and the USDA Hemp Program, and we will be sure to keep everyone informed when the situation changes. Next slide. The other change in regulations that we have is regarding the retail, sale, processing, and manufacture of CBD products in New York State. That will now be regulated by New York State Department of Health. They have issued regulations which are subject to public comment right now and will go into effect in January of 21. Those involve new licenses for CBD extraction and manufacture of products, for the manufacture only of CBD products, and for all retail sales of hemp CBD products in New York State. So this picture from my local Wegmans in Geneva, where they are selling a number of full spectrum hemp products, they would now need to be licensed for retail sales under the Department of Health program. Those guidelines include an allowance for incorporating CBD into food and beverage products with a maximum of 25 milligrams of CBD with strict labeling, including QR code to provide information for the source and origin of that CBD. Vape products will be allowed to those 21 and older, but not smokable flower. Finally, those products must be tested to validate that they contain less than 0.3% THC, but the state guidelines currently would allow an intermediary product that could be sold from an extractor to a manufacturer, for example, of up to 3% THC. So that's my overview. I hope we have some questions. If you have questions, put them in the chat and I will do my best to answer them. My role as the only panelist here. So we can move on from the slides if we want to. I do have a question in the chat. What is the current status of CBD with the FDA? So again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a plant breeder, but CBD, again, has been approved for sale as a pharmaceutical. So that is the status with the FDA. It is a prescription medicine. So to sell a prescription medicine over the counter is typically not allowed. I would say that the FDA is not fully enforcing its policies. It has been issuing letters, cease and desist letters, for example, to companies when they make claims about medical uses which may not be supported by current research. So that is the status. It is a registered and approved pharmaceutical product that can be prescribed by doctors. So I would encourage any other questions that we have. We have a few more minutes left in this session. I will say that we have had a very good growing season in our Cornell Hemp Research program. Despite our COVID restrictions, we worked in a safe way and were able to get a lot of research done, which we're looking forward to presenting at our January growers meetings and extension events. Another question, did you say you expect acreage to decrease? Does that mean that hemp is not a growth industry currently? Well, my understanding is that our acreage in 2020 is a fraction of what it was in 2019. Perhaps it's around half of what it was on the growing side. So is it not a growth industry? We had an overproduction of hemp in 2019. It was an overzealous engagement in the market in 2019. So I think we're currently at a more realistic level in terms of acreage and production of hemp according to current market demands. Those demands have stayed fairly consistent through the pandemic, but they have not grown dramatically through the pandemic. So next question is, Cornell researching means to suppress THC levels below 0.3 by adjusting nutrients or for indoor growers? And what is the genetic relationship between THC and CBD ratio? That is a great question. We have done a lot of research on that, and I think we understand things pretty well right now. There is a strong genetic basis for the ratio of CBD to THC in hemp. There is around a 25-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC, which means that when hemp plants produce over around 7% CBD, then they will also concomitantly accumulate greater than 0.3% THC. That is due to the simultaneous production of CBD and THC by the same enzyme, CBDA synthase. And we have not identified to date a way to decouple the production of THC from the production of CBD, but we are certainly researching that. The other question is whether we can alter that ratio or the production of THC by manipulating nutrients or lighting conditions, or whether more THC is made under stress. Our current research right now indicates that none of those environmental effects alter the ratio of CBD to THC. The final question, and then I think we've got to wrap up this panel, is can we identify processing facilities available to New York State farmers? Yes, we do that through COrnell Cooperative Extension. We have a hemp exchange board, and if there are processors who are looking to purchase more biomass, we often see them posting a request to buy biomass on that exchange board. The best idea, though, is to look at the publicly available list of licensed processors and to potentially identify a partner, or to work through the Cornell Center for Excellence and identify a processor and sign a contract before you start growing hemp. I guess I'm waiting for Kathy to cut me off, but there are a few more questions here. Are there viable markets for New York hemp growers currently other than CBD extraction? That is a great question. There are a number of companies that do produce, I would say on a boutique scale, personal care products. We do have some hemp food manufacturers. You may have seen, I put up a picture there of some Genesee Brewery beers that incorporate hemp. So there are some small scale, I would say boutique scale applications for hemp for food or personal care products, and some small scale fiber processors that are getting started. What we're really optimistic about is there's a coalition of growers and processors working together to try to stimulate the hemp fiber industry in New York State. And I am very optimistic. We are breeding a new hemp fiber cultivar that will be adapted to New York conditions, and that will be necessary for companies to invest in the hemp processing equipment that we need now to build a hemp fiber industry in New York. So I'm going to wrap it up there and pass it back to Kathy Young.
Thank you, Larry. Up next, we have some time for you to network and meet your fellow attendees. Take advantage of this opportunity to reach out and talk to those you'd like to get to know. Ask questions and build relationships. Go back to the lobby and select the meetings tab in the left navigation. Here you have the opportunity to meet with other attendees who have indicated that they're interested in networking. Pick a topic to talk about if you have one, or keep it simple and go with networking. Find an attendee who you'd like to meet, set the date and time, and enjoy getting to know other attendees. You can schedule this for right now to take advantage of this 20-minute networking period in the program. Or you can request to meet at any other time during the summit. Once you complete the process, your invited attendee will receive a calendar invite for their personal schedule, and you will receive a calendar notice as well. Don't be nervous. We're all in this virtual reality together, and everyone is waiting for the next person to say hello.